Follow along with me this week and I will show you how I built this custom media cabinet from scratch using maple plywood. It's a very simple yet elegant style, and I think it comes together really, really nicely in the end.
Whenever I'm planning out a custom build piece of furniture, cabinetry, anything at all, I find it really beneficial to draw everything out on a piece of grid paper. This just helps to collect my thoughts and helps me to also plan out where my cuts are going to be on the plywood that I do use to build this cabinet. I will draw out somewhat to scale what I expect this cabinet to look like when it's all said and done. It's basically several big boxes just built on top of each other. My client wants a really, really simple and modern design. That's the aesthetic he's going for. So that is the aesthetic that we will do. It will have 2 cabinet doors with knobs on either side and 2 drawers with a pole in the middle of each. I am going to build these 70 inches long by 20 inches deep with a total of 24 inches tall. The actual cabinet itself will be 16 inches tall and the base will be 8 inches tall. I decided to do that because I believe that it will look the best as far as splitting the cabinet into thirds, 2/3 for the cabinet top, 1/3 for the base. This is going to be a TV console, so it is going to be a little bit lower to the ground. That is what he was looking for specifically. Now that I have that all drawn out, I can go ahead and map out the different components of the cabinet. The top, the bottom, next the 2 sides. There will be 2 dividers dividing the cabinet into thirds. I will have 2 doors and 2 drawer faces. The base would be built with 2 long boards. After I have all these drawn out, I can go in and try to figure out what is the most effective way to use my 4x8 sheets of plywood. I'm a very visual person, so I like to draw everything out. It helps me to see where different pieces of these puzzles will fit into a sheet of plywood. And I will have some excess. This takes into account the different widths of the saw blade. You have to take that into account because obviously the saw is going to eat up some material in between these cuts. So I make sure I give myself plenty of overage with each one of these cuts. Now I have the rest of this portion of this piece of plywood left over. I will use this leftover scrap to construct the drawer boxes. I do also have some plywood leftover scraps from other projects that I will also use to build out the drawer boxes in case this amount of material does not cover all of it. I'm going to make my first cut be the drawer faces. So I will measure out 7 7/8 on both sides of this piece of plywood on one end and cut it using my saw. I'm going to make all of my cuts on the plywood at the same time just so that I can free up some floor space because these 4x8 sheets are pretty large in my garage. But to do that, I want to make sure to label what each piece is so that I'm not second guessing myself when I go to look for the different pieces that have been cut. Next, I'll measure out 19 inches to cut lengthways to account for the top and the sides. Onto sheet number 2 of plywood, and I'm going to start by cutting the lengthways 8 inches again for the base. And finally, the last cut from this big sheet of plywood for now is going to be for the doors. I'm gonna go ahead and set my scrap aside until I'm ready to cut and build the drawer boxes. In the meantime, I'm gonna do the final cuts to the body of the cabinet and start edge banding the areas that need edge banding. I'm next gonna use my miter saw to cut the base boards at a 45-degree angle. I would like to have nice mitered edges for the bottom skirting. So I have my miter saw set up to 45. I have everything all clamped down. I'm going to cut the top and the side from this one long sheet of wood. Now it is 19 inches deep and my saw, I believe it only goes to 16 inches. So I am gonna make a cut and then I will very carefully flip the board over and finish the cut on the other side. Before I edge band these, I am gonna go ahead and put the pocket holes in the boards that need them. I will also draw arrows showing the direction that I want these particular pieces to go. So not only are they labeled as far as what piece of the cabinet it goes to, but also if there's a certain orientation I would like it to go. It's just a lot easier to keep track, especially when you have so many different pieces. So for this particular sideboard, I want this to be the top and this to be the outside because it's the nicer side of the plywood. And so I will drill a couple of pocket holes on the inside, so the wrong side, against the top. That's how I'm gonna affix the top of the cabinet to the rest of the body of the cabinet. And the bottom of the cabinet, the floor, will be the one who gets the pocket holes because it can be hidden. When it comes to adding the pocket holes to the bottommost board, I want to put it on the underneath side. That way you'll never see them. And these holes will be what holds the sideboards to the rest of the cabinet. The next step is edge banding. I'm going to take an iron-on edge banding. It's really, really simple and easy to use and pretty accessible. And I'm gonna put it on all the sides that will be exposed. I'm not gonna put it on any sides that another piece of plywood will butt up against because it's never gonna be seen. It would just be a waste of material. You simply measure it to size and cut the excess with scissors or a blade. Then take a hot iron and run it over, and this will melt that glue. I try not to let the iron sit on one particular spot for too long. It will burn the wood veneer if it's sat for too long. Just enough to thoroughly melt the glue. And you will be able to see, if you look from the underneath side, you can see the glue start to bubble out through the edges. And then you can take a roller or just a flat board, whatever you have, and really make sure that's adhered down. And I do like to let that fully cure before I trim off the excess. It's the next day. All of this iron-on edge banding glue has cured, and so I can go ahead and start cutting the excess off. I just use scissors and a specialized blade trimmer. This just runs along the side and it's meant for cutting edge banding off, but you could just use a razor blade. That works as well. With a 220 grit sandpaper on my orbital sander, I'm going to go over every surface of each one of these boards, smooth everything out. This will also help to take off any residual glue that might have spilled out while ironing on the edge banding, and make sure that all the rough edges are nice and smooth. I'm going to start by assembling the bottom of this cabinet first. So this is the bottom board and one of the side boards. I am going to be using corner clamps to help me hold everything in place, as well as making sure that everything's in a nice 90-degree angle. I will use a little bit of wood glue. This usually takes a little bit of finesse, especially by yourself. Now I will place the top down, which will allow me to affix the bottom to the top now. Next, while I still have the cabinet on its top face down, I want to go ahead and install these divider boards. This will divide up this large cabinet into 3 cubbies. I did mark where the 1/3 mark would be exactly on this cabinet on the top. Drew where that center line is on each one of these dividing boards so that I can line it up perfectly and have equal sized cubbies throughout the cabinet. And now, using some clamps to hold the bottom of that divider in place, I can just go ahead and screw pilot holes down through the bottom of this. They won't ever be seen, so I can affix that divider this way. It's now time to start assembling these drawer boxes. I'm gonna have 2 drawers right in the middle here. And what I always start out doing is measuring the space that I'm going to be building these drawer boxes for. So this one is 22 inches. And in order to come up with the measurement of the dimensions I need, I have to subtract 1/2 inch from either side, and that will account for my drawer tracks, the sliding hardware that it's going to go between these sideboards and the drawer box itself. So 1 inch total from that. And then I will also subtract an additional 3/4 inch and 3/4 inch because I'm gonna build my drawer box with the sides of the box coming out to meet this center part here. So my pocket holes are gonna screw in here and screw in here. That way they are completely hidden because I'm gonna be putting my drawer face over it. It'll all make sense when you see me start to assemble it. But that's where I'm getting my measurements from. So 22 minus 1 inch minus 3/4 minus 3/4. Each of these drawer boxes are going to be 5 inches deep. So I'm gonna take 5 inches off. So each one will either be the 19.5 by 5 inches or 16 by 5 inches, depending on what area of the drawer box I'm cutting. I'm now going to use my table saw and just a regular saw blade to create the rabbets that the drawer bottom is going to slide in. How I'm going to achieve this is I'm going to lower my blade so that it's only going through maybe about halfway through my 3/4 inch board. And what I will do is I have my guard set right now to the width of each one of these, and I am going to take that in by 1/2 inch because I want my rabbet to start a little ways in from the board. And now when I run this through my saw, it will cut the first pass of a rabbet through this. And one saw blade width is not wide enough to fit the actual drawer bottom that I'm going to be using. So I will move my guard over just a little bit, even more, and I will make several passes of the same board through, and this will allow me to have a channel that is big enough for my drawer bottom to slide into. And I will do this on all of the different fronts and sides of the drawer boxes. I'm going to be using pocket holes to hold all these drawer boxes together. So on the front and back of the drawer box, I'm going to be drilling 2 pocket holes, one on either side. I do find that it's better if you keep it a little ways away from the edge because it tends to split the plywood if you get it too close to the edge. But then you also have to remember your rabbet and not drill your pocket hole through the rabbet hole as well, because that can also cause some issues. To assemble the drawer boxes, I'm going to take one of the front pieces and one of the side pieces, take my 90-degree clamp, corner clamp, and I will do the same on the other side. I'm going to take my last side and just set it in place with the rabbet side up, and I will measure for what size drawer box bottom I will need. So taking into consideration we went about halfway through on each one of these boards, so I'll measure to that. It's looking like 20.25 by 15.25. I'm going to be using these metal drawer tracks, and they get mounted on the side of the console cabinet. The drawer faces are going to be full overlay as well as the doors. This means that they're going to sit completely on the outside of the cabinet. So with this in mind, I am going to install these drawer tracks flush to the outside of the cabinet edge. I'm going to take a scrap board and use it as a spacer. I'm going to set it on top of the other track, clamp it down, and I can install the second drawer track right above the first one. And now I repeat the process on the other side as well, making sure that they're exactly the same height. Back with the drawer boxes, I'm going to install the drawer tracks on either side, on the sides, along the bottom most edge of this drawer box. I'm going to start putting the base together. I'm going to attach the 4 pieces using wood glue and some nails just to hold it in place while that wood glue sets up. I picked up some concealed hinges for the cabinet doors, and I have my settings all dialed in on my hinge jig. I've gone ahead and I've disassembled the whole cabinet. I like to put the pieces together, put the doors on, put the drawers on, even if that means I have to take them back off again afterwards. It's a lot easier to make minor adjustments if I had to, say, shave down one of the doors a little bit, or if the drawer box wasn't fitting properly. I wanted to be able to do that before painting. But now everything fits, everything's nice and smooth and ready to go, so I can start priming. I'm going to start priming with a clear shellac. Because this is getting painted black, I don't want to use my typical white primer just because it's that much more to have to cover up with a black paint. It's just too noticeable if there's an area that's thinner or anything like that. The clear works better for the darker colors.
I'm going to be painting this piece with Benjamin Moore Command in just their blackest black in a satin sheen.
The paint has had several hours to cure, so now I can start to reassemble the drawer tracks. And since I already installed them earlier, I have the old holes that I can put them back in, so it'll be really easy to just reinstall them.
I put together a swatch of different water-based stains. I have both a red mahogany and a dark walnut, and I put both of those on a swatch board and then mixed the two colors together to create kind of a warmer dark brown, and really liked the second option. So that's the option I'm going to go with to stain the base. It's just going to be a 50-50 mix of the two colors. I'll mix it together in a cup and I will apply it on the base. Because this is a water-based stain, I'm going to apply it very liberally using a brush, and I will wipe it back immediately, working in as small of sections as I can because this does dry really quickly. And once it's dried, it's really hard to remove and not have it look streaky. But it's a really easy stain to use once you get the hang of it. And the perk is there's no smell and you can top coat it as soon as it dries, which is usually within an hour or so. I went ahead and put a level on the cabinet to make sure everything is all level before adjusting the doors and installing the drawer fronts. I'm going to start by installing the bottom drawer face first. I will go ahead and line up the bottom edges with the bottom of the doors and eyeball the distance between the drawer face and the doors to make sure it's about even. And now I can go in with my nail gun and put several nails. These are just going to hold it in place while I get everything all installed and leveled. And I will go in and drill the hardware holes after that. For the top drawer, I am going to put a spacer block between the bottom drawer and the top just to ensure even spacing. And then I will make sure they're even along the sides as well. I can pull the two drawers out at the same time, keeping my spacing block there. My client opted to go for a really modern, clean look, and he wanted these bright gold hardware. He's going for elegant and modern. Those were his two main keywords that he kept saying. What with the clean lines on this piece, in the black color, this gold's really going to pop and look really pretty against as a contrast. And it's all finished up. This is a really elegant and modern piece of furniture. It was a pretty simple build. It's the style my client was exactly looking for. He wanted those clean lines to match his existing furniture. I find black to be such a difficult color to photograph and video. It really doesn't do it justice in person. It's just so smooth and has the perfect sheen. Let me know what you think. Is this a piece that you could see in your home? Is this something that you think that you could tackle? It's really not that complicated once you break it down into the steps that are needed. If you liked this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you so much.